So we're in the Overflow series. Let's just kind of shift right into that. We're landing the plane for sure this time on this sermon series. It's been so good for us because what we want to do is we just, I can know this stuff, but if I don't share it with you, I'm being so irresponsible as a leader. I cannot do that. So the Overflow today, we're going to look at generosity, and it's really just. We could just really quickly put that in there, but I like the scripture that God's given us. But the Overflow has been our series, and if you haven't seen or heard or been a part of every bit of it, please go back and review them. They're on the website. They're on they're on YouTube. I don't know about how long things last on Facebook, but they can be found, website, app, all that stuff. And as you can see, I don't do it. So I'm like, it's right there now. You can do it. So those of you who are over 40, over 50, let's just say over 50, just get your kids to find it for you and they'll show you. But I just want to recap. Week 1, here's what we looked at. Jesus is first. Now we have to establish that. That's why the first sermon in this series is Jesus is first, because Jesus is first. He cannot be second. He's the creator. We didn't create him. He created us. So Jesus is the creator. He is first, and the first is what redeems or purifies or blesses the rest. So we got to remember Jesus is first, and the first redeems the rest. Week number 2, we looked at the tithe. The tithe belongs to God. It doesn't belong to us. It's not ours, it's God's. And, somebody may say, well, the church talking about tithing, it's a term that's in the Bible, and we shouldn't leave it out because it makes people feel uncomfortable. And the reason it makes people feel uncomfortable is because it's talking about something that has a spirit on it. So the tithe belongs to God. It never is ours. It never was ours. God has allowed us to steward that. So we're stewards of what's His. And we have to be good stewards. Week number 3, we looked at multiplication. God doesn't figure the way you and I figure. You and I figure, we take a checkbook and we subtract the tithe from what's in there. Well, that's never ours anyway, but we think it's subtraction. We think it's not there anymore. And the Lord has this way of multiplying. He says, look, you put one seed in the ground and I'm going to show you how that multiplies. See, I'm just going to tell you right now, some of you will be gardening in the spring. And you're going to plant seed in the ground. If you planted a seed and you only got one seed back, I don't think you're going to do that. I don't think you want to put that much work into getting the same thing back that you put in. So we have this opportunity to see how God multiplies. So multiplication is week 4. And he says, the first redeems the rest. Bring the first in, not give you. You can't give what doesn't belong to you. So there's only 2 words associated with tithe in the Bible, and that's to rob or steal, and to bring. Can't give. It's not ours to give. So bring it in and let the first redeem the rest. So watch those. Week number 4 is the spirit of mammon. Mammon is a spirit, also translated money, which is not accurate, because money is not evil. It's the spirit that rests on the money that's evil. So Mammon was a Syrian god of riches in the days of Babylonian days. Babylon means literally confusion. So this spirit wants to confuse us. This spirit is good at it. This spirit wants to make us think that we have no need for God. What we need is that money. I mean, think about it. What's the one thing that you and I need all the time? And that's money. What's the one thing, if we had everything we needed, we would want more of? That's money. So there's a spirit of mammon that says, I want you to hoard it all up because you may not get any more. And there's a spirit of mammon that says, I don't need God. All I need is my job. I don't need God. I just need the job. I need the income. So that's what a spirit of mammon looks like. And today we're going to look at generosity. See, generosity is the foundation for legacy. So you and I are building a legacy, whether we know it or not. We're building a legacy. There's someone that I remember in school, just barely remember this person, several years ahead of me. So just, as you're going into that 7th grade, you see them, or you're going into that 9th or 10th grade, you see them. So, this person was really, really recluse, just so beaten down. I just remember so beaten down. And I remember years later, I did a job for these people, and I said, well, what about such? They said, well, you can't go. Our daughter, she stays in there. She never comes out. And this is like years later, like 20, 25 years later. And so when I finished the job, they were writing me a check, and I looked over and I saw the picture, and I'm like, I remember that girl. I remember her. She's still living beaten down, and in a place to where she's allowed. I don't know who all put it in there. I know the devil's a big part of it, but she's got it. She's got herself so suppressed that she can't even function in society. And so when we look at that, we say, okay, so what are we doing with that? Are we like that? Do we have ourselves so beaten down that we can't let God move through us? We can't build a legacy. See, the legacy that she's building is one that just isolates her. You and I, we have to build a legacy that's greater than us. There's got to be more to serving the Lord than leaving this world and sayonara, have a good life. Nobody cares. So we've got to leave a legacy that says, you know what, that person, because of their walk with the Lord, I am walking with the Lord now. That's good. That's good. Had somebody tell me one time, said, you make me want to be a better Christian. And I said, you don't have to tell me anything else. I'm happy with that. I can go to my grave now. See, the thing is when somebody says, I watch you and I want to be like you, we better know what we're being like. So we better know what legacy we're leaving behind. So did you know, just want to start out with this, did you know this, that Jesus is the only person to have a birthday and have that birthday celebrated every year, but yet nobody ever gets him anything? Now think about that. That'd be kind of sad. We're celebrating my birthday, but we're really not getting me anything. We're not even really thinking about getting me anything. We're really not even making me the center of attention. We're making everything else. So beginning next week, we are going to have our we'll call it we're calling it our frankincense offering, because those wise individuals, they traveled a long way to bring something to the Lord. They brought their first and their best to Jesus. And what they brought to Jesus was literally able to fund them to go to Africa, to leave, to come back. It funded them. So we call it our frankincense offering. And it's not our tithe, it's our offering. And there's been somebody that came in this morning and said, here, I'm giving an offering. And so what that frankincense offering will do is literally, we will a portion of that will go to missions. See, everything that comes in, we tithe on. I don't know if you know that or not, but we tithe on that and we give it to missions. So some of that goes overseas, some of that stays here, some of it stays right here in this town. And we're very happy to be able to say, we want ministry to be done here as well. When SNAP benefits were messed up, I think they're still messed up. I don't think they're going to get right until maybe next month, maybe. I don't know, month after. But until, when that looked like it was not going to be there, churches came together, and we should have done 10 times that. But churches came together, and we came up and just had one offering, $16,000, and we took it over here to the help center and said, okay, now everybody go there. That's where we want you to go, because they're good at it. That's what they're doing. $16,000, and you guys gave $3,500 of that. Just you did, and I appreciate you doing that. So this is what we will do. We'll bring an offering in, and we'll open that offering up. You do not have to have it in next week. You just say, this is what I feel like the Lord's telling me to give, and you've got several weeks to give it, to bring it. So just know that's what. And it's not for you. It's not for me and Tina. We're not going to go Florida on it. That's not going to happen. We do our own thing, our own self. But this is what the offering will do. It'll go to missions. It will go to building and expansion and ministry. So we're going to make sure that we always, and this is what our offerings go to anyway. So just letting you know that, and we'll keep you updated on everything. And I've got one thing I want to share with you so badly, but I just can't. I got to wait. So if you know me, I'm ready to talk about it right now. But we're kind of waiting. We're kind of landing the plane on it, and we want to make sure that we have an opportunity to sow into that. So the overflow. Let's jump right in. This is week 5, generosity. So let's just kind of look at a good story that gets us right on board. John chapter 12, verses 1 through 6. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany. I'm reading now the ESV, same things on the screen, where Lazarus was. Now this is the guy Jesus raised from the dead. Verse 2, so they gave a dinner for him there. So we've got a guy who was dead for 4 days, and now he's alive, and they're throwing a party. They're having a big, a big deal going on. Don't think everybody's not going to want to be there. Everybody's wanting to be there, by the way. So if you and I, if we knew for a fact that somebody was in the grave for 4 days and God raised them, you and I would be wanting to look at this person. I mean, if nothing else, they're just a unicorn to us. We've never seen one of these before. So, verse 2, so they gave a dinner for him there. Martha served. Now, let's not throw Martha under the bus. Let's make sure we appreciate Martha. Martha served. Keep this in mind. If we don't have servers, if we don't have servants, we don't have any events. These last 2 events that we had over the weekend are prime examples of if we don't have servants, we don't have events. Martha was an organizer, more likely a planner, and she pretty much put this together, and she organized this, and this was her offering. She brought her offering to the Lord, so she's serving. So there's nothing wrong with serving, but sometimes we need to realize what's most important. Let's see, Martha served, we're still in verse 2, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him at table. Verse 3, Mary therefore took a pound of expensive ointment made from pure nard. It's like nard. It's not that. It's not like nard. It's really expensive. And anointed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of perfume. Verse 4, but Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples. Now, John is doing this. John is writing this, and John clearly has a disdain for this guy. I love this. Sam and I get to talking about this, and we just have a blast with it. It's clear that John does not care for him. So I'm going to read it kind of in the personality or the emotion that John was writing it. Verse 4, but Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, the guy that was about to betray him, he said, why was the ointment not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor? Now, why, Why? He said this because he didn't care about the poor. All he cared about was himself because he was stealing from it. So you could kind of see what he was doing. That Judas. John's kind of like, I never did like this guy. So anyway, we've got this clearly laid out that there's people in the house that didn't approve of what she was doing. There's people in the house that was busy. People in the house that had another agenda, and there was people in the house that wanted to worship. So let's just kind of dive in with some key points. Key points sound good to you? All right. Key point number 1, generosity is the cornerstone of building legacy. It's the cornerstone to building legacy. Mary and Martha and Lazarus, these guys are going to be remembered forever. You know how I know this? It's because it's been over 2,000 years and we're still talking about them. So they're going to be remembered forever. Mary, Martha and Lazarus, 2 sisters and a brother. They're going to be remembered because they're building a legacy. You're building a legacy. I don't know if you know it or not. You're building a legacy, but is it the one that you really desire and your heart's been focused on? Is it the legacy that you wanted to build, or is it the legacy that you ended up building and didn't mean to? So Martha's legacies are hospitality. There's nothing wrong with being a hospitable person. There's nothing wrong with leading that hospitality portion of the ministry. She was doing what God had called her to do. So her legacy is she was building a legacy of hospitality. Lazarus' legacy is he was resurrected. He used to be dead. He's a unicorn. He is an anomaly. He is what everybody wants to see as much as they want to see Jesus. You ever notice we want to see what Jesus has done as much as we want to see Jesus? We want to hear about what Jesus has done as much as we want to hear from Jesus. So this guy has a legacy that I was a dead dude, and now I'm not. So Mary's legacy is her extravagance in worship. So this is the legacy that they were leaving. Mary poured everything she had on Jesus. Her generosity set forth a legacy of giving to the Lord that is still impacting lives today. People are being impacted by what she did. People are learning how to be generous by what she did. So let's just kind of look at Mark's version, chapter 14, verse 3. She broke the alabaster. Now, John's version says she poured it. But Mark's version says she broke it. There's a difference in breaking it and pouring it. You know, I can take a nice glass jar and I can pour out of it, but when I break it, there's something final about that. So she broke it. Now, I've often wondered about this. This is just something I wondered about. How did you break it? Did she break it like an egg? Did she break it on Jesus? I mean, think about this. If she broke it on the floor, did it not all pour out on the floor? In order not to waste any, did she, I think she probably broke the neck of it. Can't use it anymore. She broke the neck of it and poured the rest of it out. So here's the thing. She broke it, and we know that she broke it. It was the vessel that contained the ointment. It was what she had saved her life for. It was her most prized possession. It was the thing that she had. It was like the safe deposit box with the dollar bills in it, with the big dollar bills in it and the stacks of it to us today. It would be the thing that moms handed down to us. You could take everything, but don't take that kind of thing. So the act of breaking was complete. It showed completion. In other words, I'm pouring my complete everything on the Lord. The act of breaking was irreversible. In other words, I'm not going to hold any back. Do you realize how easy it is for you and I to hold back? Let's just say, for instance, I'm going to lay my everything on that altar. Here is where I lay it down. Everything to you, Lord. I lay it right here until I'm finished praying, and then we'll pick it up and take it with me when I go. Lord, I lay my depression right here. And Lord, I just need you to forgive me of my sins, and Lord, and I just want you to heal me of this depression. And thank you, Lord. Thank you. I'm going to take my depression with me because I may need it. Lord, I'm going to give you my cigarettes. Here's where I lay my cigarettes, Lord. I'm giving them to you. Everybody's hugging on me, and I'm like, okay, put them right back here. I may need those. You know, Tina did that one time. She's like, don't talk about me. She did that. It's been like 100 years ago. She tried smoking for a little while. It's the thing that probably would have driven us apart. So she says, Lord's delivered me of it. I'm healed of it. I'm like, well, why are they still in that glove box? Well, it's just a reminder. No, it's not. It's in case you want one. So, I mean, it just stayed there. They stayed there. So she didn't get them out. I mean, you got to realize, Tina, too. I mean, she'd be like, lightning will strike me before I get them out there. Well, we'll get the temptation out there. And then we went through this whole series of baptism. I mean, we didn't just get baptized we went through a whole course. And the night that we got baptized, we came out and she threw them away. See, the thing is it has to be final. It has to be complete. It has to be irreversible. It's not going to happen again. So, you know what? I have no temptation to go back to it. I can't lay my cigarettes on the altar, but then put them back in my pocket because I've just carried the temptation with me. So I've got to be able to say it's irreversible. She was saying it's irreversible. I'm not even holding anything back for my brother. Hey, y'all, I'm the sister to the guy who was dead. Y'all get that? I'm the sister to the guy that was dead, and I'm going to pour out everything on Jesus. I'm going to pour a little bit on my brother because he's an anomaly. He's a unicorn. So I'm going to pour a little bit out on him so y'all get to see what he did or what God did to him as much as what God did. Who God is. So she didn't even do that. Oh, he's deserving of attention. I could have poured something out on him. Everybody wants to see him anyway. But instead, she took everything and she said, look, I want you to stop. People were peering through the windows. People were standing outside. People wanted to see the thing that used to be dead but now is alive. They wanted to see the miracle. Sometimes we just want to see what God can do instead of who God is. She was saying, look, I'm telling all you guys everywhere, stop looking at what God can do and start looking at God. Let's start looking at who He is rather than what we can get from Him. So, somebody's always deserving of attention. Good job. I'm so glad you're walking with the Lord. So proud of you. But listen, Jesus is the one we need to focus on. Now, God's given us a heart to focus on this person and to lead them, but they cannot be the one we worship. They cannot turn into our little God. My project is so big that I can't get my mind's on that rather than God. There's only one Jesus. What's He worth? Key point number 2. Generosity, it will be attacked. I should have put quotation marks. It will be attacked. Generosity is going to be attacked, and not like you think. See, here's the thing. In the room that day, we've got this house of Bethany. We've got Lazarus there, Martha there. We got disciples there. We got all kinds of people there. We got people hanging out. People just rubbernecking. They're just wanting to see what's going on. Every person in that room represents every emotion and personality you and I have today. So our attack is not going to come so much from the outside as it is from the inside. She had to navigate every attack that was on the inside. She couldn't see what was on the outside. She had to navigate what was on the inside. And every person in there represents the emotions that you and I go through when it comes to being generous. So let me show you this. Number 1 is, I want to be generous and I want to give to the Lord. Okay, fine. That's good. I want to be so extravagant that it's worship to me. That's good. Oh, but another voice tells me that I can't afford to do this. I want to give to the Lord, but a voice tells me I can't afford it. Can't do that. You can't afford to do that. See, there's always that voice in our head that says, oh, you can't. See, part of me says, I'm too busy to press in. You know what? There's a lot going on in the room. We got a man cave party going on. We've got a dude hangout going on. We don't need women in here. All we need women for is to make sure that our coffee don't run out and our pastries don't quit. So we don't need a woman to come in and take all the attention and all the atmosphere out of the room and into what she wants. So we've got our thing going on. We don't have time to worship. Get it? I got to show up for church. I don't have time to worship. We can show up for church because it's something that we have to do, and then we can also not take time to worship. See, part of us is too busy to press in. Part of us says, I want to press in. I want to pour everything out on the Lord, but I can't afford it. Another part of us says, hey, I've been changed drastically. Lazarus had been changed about as much as anybody could be changed that's ever lived. If you've been dead for 4 days, you've been changed. And you're alive now, you've been changed a whole lot. He's been changed drastically. And he's in enough appreciation to where I'm willing to risk my life to make sure I'm close to you. Now think about this. Jesus is public enemy number 1. And I would say the disciples are right behind him. And now I'd say Lazarus has just moved up to number 2. So Lazarus is the new number 2 public enemy. In all of the land, he's their greatest threat. And I mean, let's go with that mindset just a minute. You know what? I want to worship the Lord. I want to press in. I don't care if everybody sees it or not. I don't care what people think. I just want to press in with the Lord. But I'm afraid I'm going to look a little bit ridiculous. I'm afraid that it's going to be frowned upon. People are going to talk about me. If I get too excited about the Lord, they're going to call me a Jesus freak. I mean, I don't want to be labeled. I mean, I don't want to be, that guy. So how do I figure this one out? Well, you know what? I've got to realize that I may lose a lot. With every step closer I get to the Lord, I may lose a lot on the external. Can you imagine threatening Lazarus? If you don't betray him, if you don't stop following him, we're going to put you to death. I've done that already. You throw something else at me you can't threaten me with death. I've been there already. There's not a lot of people in the world who has ever died and died again later. I mean, this guy died, and then later on he died again. So you know what? We don't have too many people like that in the world. And Lazarus is an anomaly. He is a freak of nature. He's a freak of what Jesus has done, and everybody wants to see him. And he's like, look, I don't care if I'm risking my life here or not. When you press in with the Lord and you get as close to him as you could possibly get, you're running a risk that you're losing other people that are not going to do that. You're going to lose reputation. You know, and Tina's cousin is a perfect example of this. Talked to him just the other day. And he said, he's talking about praising the Lord and the Holy Spirit and the move of the Holy Spirit. This is a guy that was the ringleader of the anti-God group. And now he's talking about pressing in with the Lord. And he's been walking with the Lord for quite a while now. And I said, you know what's so cool? You didn't used to talk about that. He said, I'm not who I used to be either. I'm like, no, you're not. You're not who you used to be. So what's so cool? I'm watching him. You know what? He was the ringleader. Everybody looked up to him. Everybody said, you're the one we're following. He had a hard time with it, but he had to let it be a risk to him, and he had to say, I'm risking it, and I don't care what you think. See, part of us says, I want to be near Jesus, and I want to hear from Jesus, but I don't want to be changed by Jesus. Now think about that one. I want to be in the room with Jesus. My heart and my mind says I want to be close to Jesus, but you know what? I don't know if I really want to be changed by Jesus. I invited somebody to church today. I wanted them changed. I didn't want you to change me, Lord. They're the ones that need to be changed. You know what? Let them worry about them. We need to understand what God's doing in us. You know, there's another part of us that says, you know what? I'm here just to get from Jesus. He's popular right now, and I just want to get what I can get from Jesus while the iron's hot. So I just want to be in the room with Jesus because it's the place to be. You know, sometimes we want to cling to Jesus because it's the popular thing right now. You know, part of us says, there's a voice inside of us that says, you know what? I just want to complain because I got to do all this. Why do I have to serve? Why do I have to do all this? Why do I have to load all the tables up and all the chairs and unload all the tables and all the chairs and cook all the food and set all the pots up or whatever you call them, the chafing dishes, and ask everybody to cook something? Why do I have to do all that? Well, we don't have to do any of it. We get to do what God's called us to do. See, we can do like Mary. We could be a leader in serving, but we could do Martha. We could be a leader in serving. We could also be a leader in complaining. So you know what? Let's not be a leader in complaining. Let's be a leader in serving. So is there a part of us that says, you know what? I just want to worship him, and I want to pour everything out on him, and I really don't care who thinks about what. You know, that's a good place to be. But there's other voices going on. And it's just like all those men standing around that room. Everybody's staring at me because I'm the one that's got something wrong with me. Why? Because I'm at the altar praying. Well, they got wrong with them again. I've heard people say that. What possibly could go wrong so bad between last Sunday and this Sunday with that guy that he has to go back to the altar? Hey, you know what? Maybe he's processing something in his life. Maybe he's trying to figure out, how in the world do I let Jesus kill this in me? You know, maybe I just need to do that. You know, maybe there's a part of us that says, you know, you can do all this, but you know you're never going to be good enough. You know you're always going to be the wrong gender. You know you're always going to be the wrong color. You know you're always going to be the wrong outside group looking in. You're always going to be outside the clique. You're never going to be accepted. You're always going to be the one on the outside. There's always a voice that says, why press in? Because it's not going to do me any good anyway. Well, if I'm pressing in with the Lord just so I can get everybody like me, then I'm pressing in for the wrong reason. So Mary came into the room. And all these guys, all these emotions. So all these emotions in my mind and your mind are going on as to why we shouldn't pour everything out and be generous and set a generosity, foundation of generosity and build a legacy. Everything's going in my mind telling me the reason I can't. Well, you can't do that because you know what? We got to pay for this next month. Can't do this because we promised so and so. All these reasons why and all these rationales, and Mary comes in and makes all those mentalities look like they're school kids. All y'all sitting around. In other words, she's saying all y'all sitting around and you're listening to Jesus. You're absorbing everything from him. You're taking from him. But has anybody ever thought about giving to him? And I want to make sure that every eye that's on him and on Lazarus and looking through those windows, I want to make sure that everybody sees that it's about Jesus. It's not about what he can do for you. It's about who he is. Think about how good that was. She showed us what generosity looked like. She didn't care. So, generosity is always going to be under attack, so there's always good old Judas. We can always depend upon him. Judas has this way of attacking. He makes up a story because he wants to have a covering that looks like he cares, but he really doesn't. And so Judas comes in. So how many times have we rationalized out of what God wanted us to do because, you know what, here's a good story that fits. You know, maybe God's called somebody in this room to ministry, but I've rationalized why I can't because I have a house payment, I have a job or a business, I'm raising kids, I've got 16 other things going on. I can't answer the call to ministry because these things, so therefore I have a reason why I can't. Must just be me thinking this, must not be the Holy Spirit. See, I did a little bit of that. I put some of the calling on the back burner because of business and because of kids' school and all that stuff. I did that as well. See, Judas immediately figures out a way that she shouldn't do it. The Judas in us will figure out a way, always rationalize a way a reason why we shouldn't do this. Mary she wasn't the right gender. She didn't fit into the man cave mentality, but she comes in and she makes them all look bad. Because see, it wasn't the culture of the day for a woman to bombard a man's party. They're talking about stuff, talking about real stuff. Do you realize we stood right back here, 3 or 4 of us, and we talked about man stuff, and we included Jess. We talked about man stuff. We talked about football. I'm like, you probably don't care, do you? She's like, yeah, I do. I'm like, well, jump in, let's talk. But see, man won't talk about man stuff, won't talk about football. Talk about baseball. Maybe sometimes man get together, man don't kill meat, don't cook meat, man focus on the Lord. And man lead like that. And for some reason I'm talking about caveman. I don't know where we got that. Was pretty cool though. So there's the sister. Let's just key in on her just for a second before we go to the next key point. Martha was so focused on what she had to do that she couldn't focus on what should be done. Sometimes we're so focused on what we have to do that we can't focus on what we should do. So, key point number 4. The legacy that we leave without education, it's going to be forgotten. If we don't educate people as to why we're doing this, it's going to be forgotten. If I don't teach you, if I know what is a curse on my life and your life, and I don't teach you, then you will continue to walk with a curse on your life. And you know what? It's like, why should I hoard this up? It's not right for me to hoard up that, you know, the tithe never is mine. I don't know why I even say, I don't know why I don't teach people this. Well, because you can't talk about money in church. People will not come if you talk about money in church. You talk about money at Walmart and they still come. Everything else revolves around money. Jesus talks more about money than he does about most everything else combined. But you know what? We're not talking about money. We're talking about blessing. And I just don't want to be the one that allows you to walk into a curse. I'm not make you do anything. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Well, I do care, but it doesn't bother me. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. But I am going to lose sleep over me not teaching you, me not saying it. Tina and I sat in a hospital a few weeks back, and when we first walked in, there's this big bronze statue of this dude, this doctor, and I recognized his name, been dead a long time. And I recognize his name because of, you know, his name being spoken of on the news and stuff. And he's either given greatly to this hospital, researched something, whatever it was. He had a great impact. And this big placard out in front that I didn't have time to read, and because we didn't end up staying in that meeting area there, that foyer. But see, that's there to make sure people don't forget his generosity. They don't forget why this hospital's here because he gave. This hospital's here because of what he did. because of the vision that he had, because of the legacy that he left, and the legacy's built upon generosity. So here's why the hospital's here, because of his heart. I mean, yeah, he may have made thousands and millions and millions and millions of dollars, but you know what? He probably poured a lot of it into this, what we saw there. If we fail to educate the next generation, they're just going to walk in, it's just going to be another statue. If we don't know what this guy did, it's just always going to be a statue. And they're going to tear it down and throw it out at some point because it doesn't have any value because we didn't educate. Judas didn't have the heart of generosity that Mary did. If he was intimidated by her extravagance, if someone is intimidated and nervous where our passion for the Lord is concerned, they're under conviction. And they're going to, or we are. Maybe part of me is nervous about the other part of me wanting to worship, and I'm under conviction because of it. That's good. That's fine. But we don't need to let the conviction push us away. We need to let it draw us in. If we fail to educate, that's what's going to happen. It bothered him so much that he tried to tear down what she was doing rather than build it up. We have to educate those around us of the importance of a generous heart. Once again, we can't build a legacy. I'll put it on the screen for you. We can't build a legacy without generosity. So, I want to show you something. I want to show you a monument. This is a monument of Terry Fox. Terry Fox was in high school in the 70s, 1970s, and Terry was an athlete and a cross-country runner. And Terry got I don't know if he got a scholarship. He was attending a college, tried out for the basketball team, actually made the college team, and was on the team, was just very athletic, very, very driven. And in 1977, he began to start having such knee pain that he had to have something looked at, and found out that he had an aggressive form of cancer in his knee. And so aggressive that we can't even wait. Got to have this thing out. We got to amputate your leg tomorrow. So they amputated his leg somewhere up in here above the knee, and his right knee was amputated, and he went through treatments. It wasn't the amputation that bothered him as bad. It wasn't the treatments that bothered him. It was the people that he saw. He saw kids that were being ravaged by this thing, this disease, and the treatments, and he would see that they weren't there anymore, that they had died. And his heart just got so connected that he couldn't give up on this. And later on, I mean, you know, what's your desire when you're an athlete? What's your desire as a young man? Well, you want to be athletic. He became literally a 3-time national champion wheelchair basketball player, nationally. He was from Canada. That's why we don't know a lot about it. He was from Canada, and he became a 3-time champion basketball player, but that wasn't meeting the need that was in his heart. There's something in here that's more than just playing basketball from a wheelchair. God's calling me to make a difference. So, despite only having one leg, he began to start training in private. Didn't want anybody to tell him he couldn't do it. He began to start training in private, and they're like, "What are you doing?" "I'm running." "But you can't run." Just by the way, prosthetics were not as advanced then as they are now, by a long shot. So what are you doing? "I'm running. I'm practicing running. I'm doing it every day." Step, step, clank. Step, step, clank. He had he had to develop a rhythm with a prosthetic. In 1980, Terry set out to raise money for cancer research. His goal was, I want to raise $1 million for cancer research. And I'm going to run across the entire nation landmass of Canada, which is not an easy task. It's way bigger than ours, by the way. And so he set out with this goal, and day one, he dipped that prosthetic in the Atlantic Ocean, took some water from the Atlantic Ocean, and was going. His goal was, I'm going to run to the Pacific side, and I'm going to dump this water and put these waters together and show that we've connected and we've unified this nation. and he began to start running. I don't know if you've ever heard this story or not, but he ran the equivalent of a marathon every day for 143 straight days on one leg. Now, I don't know too many people who have ever ran a marathon. When Tina and I used to run, I just had one goal to run a half marathon. I didn't have a goal to run a marathon, just a half marathon. This guy ran a marathon a day. He ran 12 miles in the morning. He rested, had lunch, and ran 14 miles in the afternoon every day and did it again tomorrow. I just want somebody to focus on what I'm doing. People offered to sponsor him, to give him money, to buy him this. He said, no, if you're not given to research and the cancer research, I don't want you to do it. Either it goes all to cancer research or none of it. None of it goes to me. And by the way, a worship team, you can go ahead and get started. And he set out to raise $1 million. At first, people would give him $1 or $2 or some change, and he was building up a nest egg of a few $100s real fast. That wasn't the goal, but he kept on going. He kept going until some people started noticing, and television stations started noticing, and he began to start getting coverage, and it was widely broadcast everywhere what he was doing. And one guy was a corporate guy, and he lost his son to cancer as a young child, and he's like, I'm getting on board with this. And he got on board with it big time, and he pushed it. And Terry just kept running every day, 143 days straight. And he was asked, why are you doing this? Why are you, you're not really you're not even a good walker. How are you doing this, and why are you doing this? This is what he said, we need your help. The people in cancer clinics all over the world need people who believe in miracles. Now, I'm not a dreamer, he said, and I'm not saying that this will initiate any kind of definitive answers or even a cure for cancer, but I believe in miracles because I have to. I have to. And if I don't believe in the miracle of what we're doing, of what God's called us to, if the generosity in me is not setting forth a legacy, then I can't. If I don't believe it, nobody else is going to believe it. So at first, few dollars trickled in, and then all of a sudden they started nearing this $1 million, and they're not even halfway across yet. And so he changed it. See, sometimes God gives us one vision to build upon because he knows that the big vision would be too much. We couldn't contain it. So he gives us the smaller vision to get us started, and then we realize that's not big enough. So then he gives him this larger, more powerful vision. I want to raise $1 for every person that is in this nation, in this country. $24 million. I want to raise $24 million. And they began to start running. $24 million, one person, $1 for every person, and money started coming in. Step, clank, step, clank, every day, 26 miles, every single day, 143 straight days. At the 3,339 mile marker, now that's running on one leg for 3,339 miles. At the 3,339 mile marker, Terry had to stop. He was forced to stop. He became sick. He was coughing. He was laboring to breathe. And he was rushed to the hospital. And the diagnosis was pretty grim. He had developed cancer in his lungs. And he didn't get to finish. He didn't get to finish his race. He didn't live much longer. He died a few months later. This was 1980 or 81, I believe it was. And the one guy that was so passionate about this, he said, this can't stop right here. The generosity that was in him cannot stop because he's not doing this anymore. We have to make sure that what he started, we can continue. So they began every year to have a Terry Fox Memorial Run. Every year. And then it began to get bigger. And then all of a sudden, multiple countries are doing this. It happens all over the world. And to this day, almost $1 billion has been raised for cancer research. Almost $1 billion. Because one guy said, I can't stand to have this image in my head one more day. At least I can create awareness. So what was his legacy? His legacy was to make sure that people know that there's somebody that's going through cancer treatments tomorrow. And that we need better research in order to pour into this. Because you know what? It may not happen tomorrow, but in the years to come, it will change. As a matter of fact, the cancer that he had in his knee, over 80% survival rate now. Over 80%, which was way less, probably less than 20% survival rate back in that day, because of the money that his foundation has raised. Terry is a national Canadian hero. His generosity funded one of the greatest cancer research fundings in the world. And what if we start tearing his monuments down? He never did this to have a monument put up of him, but he did this to raise awareness. He did this to make sure that everybody had a heart to give. People gave, and they still give, because it makes a difference. What if we tore those monuments down? Then after a while, nobody would even remember this guy. What if we tore down the legacy that we're trying to build? What if we tore down what Mary was trying to do? What if Judas got his way? Then we wouldn't be teaching of her generosity today. It would be different. It would be a different world. If we destroy this, then we destroy the legacy. Generations at that point follow, they won't know the importance of it. So in closing, there's a spirit of mammon. And this spirit of mammon wants to steal our blessing and keep us under a curse. This spirit of mammon, it's not a God-first spirit. Anything that's not a God-first spirit is an antichrist spirit. It doesn't multiply. It wants us to always think subtraction and always think about what we don't have. It doesn't care about others. It focuses on getting rather than giving. And it convinces us that we can't afford to be generous. See, a lot of people, why did Terry Fox train for 14 months in secret? Because everybody would have told him he can't do this. And I don't need people telling me I can't do it. I just need to figure out how I can get my gate down to where I can figure out how I can do this. So in other words, this spirit keeps telling you and I and convincing us that you cannot live under a blessing and give break God his tithe and help people with offerings. You just can't do that. It's not possible. Well, that's that spirit of mammon talking. And he's very, very convincing. He sounds like Judas. See, this spirit of mammon, if we listen to it, it's going to have its way, and God's going to be completely pushed out of our lives. So this last thing I want to put on the screen for you. What you do will positively impact others, but what you don't do will negatively impact even more people. So in other words, what I do, the minute I give my heart to the Lord is going to impact people's lives. But what happens if I don't give my heart to the Lord? How many will never be impacted? So we have an opportunity to negatively impact. I say let's not do that. I say let's make sure that doesn't happen. So I want you to please stick around for our baby dedication, but I want you to stand with me. And I want to ask you, generosity is number one, looks like this. Generosity, the heart of generosity is to give. Generosity says, I have to give my heart to the Lord. That's our number one, very first act of generosity. I have to give to Jesus. And I can promise you, He's going to multiply what you give Him. He's pretty good at it. So, let's ask this question. Have you given your heart to the Lord? Have you been generous with? See, this is the thing we don't want to do. We don't want to lose control. We don't want to lose control. We don't even want it to act. We don't even want it to sound like we're out of control. You know what? I don't care how messed up my life is. Nobody's going to run it but me. I'm in charge of my life. And that's just pure old pride. When we say, I the steward of what God's doing in my life is way better. And I'm going to allow myself to give to Him my heart. He doesn't want, trust me, God doesn't want your money. It's not yours anyway, but He doesn't want your money. He wants your heart. And when we give Him our heart, we're going to give to the one who can multiply the blessings back on us. So with your heads bowed and your eyes closed, I want to ask you to give your heart to the Lord. I want to ask you to give generously your heart to Him. And I want to ask you, when you give it to Him, don't give it to Him thinking you're going to take something back later. Give your heart to the Lord and say, Lord, I'm yours. I will walk with you. So let's pray this. This is the way we do it. If you're visiting with us, I'm going to pray out loud, and I invite you to pray with us. Out loud, and people in the congregation are going to help you pray out loud. And this is how we work, because we work with a team mentality. And I want to ask you to pray this prayer with your heads bowed and your eyes closed. Pray this prayer out loud, please. Dear Jesus, I invite you into my heart to forgive me of my sins. I repent of my sins. I confess my sins to you. This is what the Word tells me to do. And because I have prayed this prayer, I'm a child of the King. I receive salvation that can only come from you, and I'm a child of the King. And I thank you for what you've just done. I thank you for the salvation. In your name I pray. Amen.